The August 20th Common Council meeting to order. Would all of those present please indicate so on your remote? Wish to welcome all those that are here this evening, watching in person and watching from home, and all the council members that are here this evening. With that, we'll move into the next item on the agenda. This is the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a silent prayer. If everyone could please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on our agenda is the reading of the minutes from the previous meeting, and those should be attached.
Move to approve and place on file.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes. The next item on the agenda is the explanation of the visitor speaking procedure. For those sitting here tonight wishing to address the body may do so after being recognized by a council member, in which you'll have 5 minutes to make your point. There will be no discussion on items that are not appearing on the agenda, as with every meeting. Make sure you hit the push button on the microphone if anyone wishes to do so. Next item on the agenda is the student observer recognition. So if we can have our two former student observers please come to the front so we can recognize both of you. Okay, let's see if this can pick us up for Tom on TV. But first one to Martha, we're presenting you an official key to the city for your service and representation to the city council for the last year. You bared it out for 12 months, sat through a lot of meetings, right? And so hopefully you learned something. So I want to give you a recognition. Thank you for your service, and a nice plaque for you to take off to school. I understand you're leaving for school tomorrow, so we wish you the best, and to Nick as well. So congratulations, we wish you the best as well. There's a plaque, and so if either of you would like to say something, I know Nick, you had made a comment the last meeting, and Martha, if you wanted to make a comment at this, you can feel free to resume to your old spot and make a comment. All right, we thank you. Isn't here? Okay. All right. Next item on the agenda is item number 7, which was handled in a committee of the whole. Do we have to strike that from our agenda this evening, or we just can move on with it? Okay. Item number 8 is the report of the Planning Commission meeting held August 5th. Point here. The Planning Commission met on 5 p.m. Monday, August 5th, 2013 in the first floor conference room of City Hall. All members were present except for Jerry Feith. Also present was Adam Tagan. A list of others present is in file in the clerk's office. There was a motion and a second to approve the report from the July 1st Planning Commission. The motion was carried. There were two under maps and plats received. Item A was Mike Wolosik, CSM, where the applicant was requesting a certified survey map approval for reconfiguration of 2 lots and the dedication of property for public right-of-way purposes. The subject properties are located on the northeast corner of 19th Avenue and Gaynor Avenue within the city of Rapids. There was a motion and a second to approve, and the motion was carried. The second item underneath maps and plats received was a request from Timothy Reed in the form of a street vacation. The applicant was requesting to vacate the east 44 feet of Robinson Street. There was a motion and a second to recommend approval of the vacation of a 15-foot wide strip of the northernmost 125 feet of Robinson Street. The motion was carried. Item 2 was a public hearing on Plan 130440 E-Way sales. The applicant was requesting a conditional use to allow a warehouse within the B2 General Commercial District. The subject property was located at 3431 8th Street South within the city of Wisconsin Rapids. A public hearing was held. Speaking in favor of the request was the requester, Jonathan Reuter of 3511 8th Street South. And speaking against was Dave Pryor, owner of Quality Plus Printing at 3515 8th Street South, a legal objector. Peter Derazinski, owner of Mailboxes Incorporated of Roosevelt Drive in Plover, also a legal objector. Item 3 was the action on that plan, 130440 E-Way Sales. There was a motion and a second to hold the item over until the next meeting for more details. The motion was carried, with Tom Rayom voting in the negative. Item 5, Plan 130462 SC Swiderski LLC. The applicant was requesting a site plan approval to allow the construction of 2 12-unit apartment buildings and accessory detached garages within the R3 multifamily residential district. The subject property is located at 3421 and 3521 Norton Street within the city of Wisconsin Rapids. There was a motion and a second to approve the site plan to allow the construction of 2 12-unit apartment accessory buildings and accessory detached garages within the R3 multifamily district located at 3421 and 3521, and the motion was carried. There was a motion to adjourn. Alderpersons, what are your wishes regarding the report of the Planning Commission held on August 5th?
Make a motion to approve of those minutes.
We have a motion, is there a second? I guess when the computer's ready. We have a motion and a second, any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. Please cast your ballots. Did it? Okay, we'll do a voice vote. All in favor of approving the report, signify by saying aye. Opposed? That passes. Next item under, on the report in front of us this evening, item number 9 under new business. Item A, Mayor Vruwink's appointment to the Board of Review. See attachment number 1. It should be right behind your agenda. Reappointment submitted for your approval. Keith Wilkes, residing at 440 3rd Street South, reappointed for a term expiring May 1st of 2017. He was previously appointed, became ineligible to serve on the Board of Review because of a residency issue, is now being reappointed under the same term expiring. So it's not that he's getting granted an extended term, it's the same term that he was originally appointed for. Council members, what are your wishes regarding that report? Or that, I'm sorry, that attachment, that appointment.
I'd move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? We have a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passes. Thank you. Item number 10, Standing Council Committee Reports. Item A is the Finance and Property Committee meeting held August 5th.
And I would like to very sincerely thank Councilmember Andrew Kirkpatrick, who filled in for me during family items. So I'm going to turn it over to Andrew, who's going to read the report.
Thank you. The Finance and Property Committee met at 5 p.m. on Monday, August 5th. First floor conference room at City Hall. All members are present except Gene Young, who was excused, and Chad Worrell, who was also excused. Marion Holcamp sat in for Chad Worrell. Also attending, list on file. Now, item 1, the meeting was called to order. Item 2, no special beer license applications. Item 3 was a request from Doris Laskowski on behalf of Hope and Community, A Smile from Lacey, for the approval of a special events application for September 7th and 8th. This included A, street closures, which are listed. Item B was vending, and item C was a special beer license filed by Pub Pilots of Wisconsin Rapids with a premises description including Veterans Park and the streets which were requested closed. It was moved by Holcamp, seconded by myself, to approve the application, including street closures, vending, and beer license filed by Pub Pilots, and that motion carried. Item 4 was a request from Krista Kuhn on behalf of the Heart of Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce for approval of special application for the 13th Annual Downtown Grand Affair on September 8th from 6 a.m. to 5 p.m., including vending and closures of the following streets. Those streets are attached and can be viewed. It was moved and seconded to approve of the special events application to include street closures. That motion carried. Item 5, a request from the Planning and Economic Development Director for a Phase 2 application for the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation Certified Sites Program. It was moved and seconded to approve the request to apply for the program and to not exceed $20,000 without Finance and Property Committee approval. That motion carried. Item 6 was a request from Fire Chief Kirkman for permission to apply for a 2013 FEMA SAFER grant for 3 entry-level firefighter paramedics. It was moved and seconded to approve applying for that 2013 FEMA SAFER grant, and if the grant is approved, that the item would come back to the Human Resources and the Finance and Property Committees for further discussion. That motion carried. Item 7 was a request from Police Chief Kurt Hoyer to use the City of Wisconsin Rapids property to construct a public safety and City of Wisconsin Rapids communications tower. It was moved and seconded to approve the location requested, and that further details would need to come back to the committee for approval. That motion carried. Item 8, request from City Clerk Shane Blazer to purchase and replace election equipment. It was moved and seconded to approve the purchase of 4 ES and SDS 200 voting equipment machines for $22,955. That motion carried. Item 9 was a presentation of a 2012 financial audit report. It was moved and seconded to accept and approve that report. That motion carried. Item 10 was beverage operator license applications. It was moved and seconded to approve the applications for the individuals listed. Item B, it was moved and seconded to renew the license for the one individual for the renewal. And item C, there were no applications denied by the police department. Item 11 was the audit of the bills. It was moved and seconded to approve payment of vouchers number 51658 through 52015. That motion carried. Item 12 was adjournment. Our meeting adjourned at 6:02 p.m. And with that, I would move for approval of these minutes.
We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Is there any discussion?
Your Honor,
Yes, sir.
item 5 and 6, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
A certified sites program is what and for to the City of Wisconsin Rapids?
So item number 5, Adam can speak in detail of it. Go ahead, Adam.
Certified Sites Program is offered through the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. Basically, it does 2 things. Number 1, it makes the city go through and make sure that city-owned property is actually ready for development. That means everything from doing endangered species report studies to subsurface soil investigation, wetland studies, all those type of things basically being done at the front end so that if a prospect comes to the city, they know that they won't encounter any difficulties to build there. So that's kind of the first phase of that program. The second phase of that program is a fee that goes to the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, and that brings in a national site selector. So someone who basically gets hired by large corporations to find a future landing spot for that business. That site selector is going to come to Rapids and actually do a site visit, explore the location, as well as look at the city from a larger sense and make recommendations on things that could be improved, all to help make basically a property in the city more attractive to development.
Do we have any sites that would meet the criteria or close to the criteria?
Yep. We actually, what this fee is going to cover is the final studies we have to do, and it'll put the Eastside Commerce Park is our proposed site. It would be the property east of 48th
Right.
Street.
Okay, good. Glad to hear that. And item number 6 for the chief, it says permission to apply for a FEMA SAFER grant for 3 entry-level firefighters, paramedics. I take it this is one of those situations where you receive the grant, and then in turn, after the expiration of the grant, they become the responsibility of the city?
Correct, after 3 years.
Okay, so whatever their salary roll-ups and benefits are, they become the responsibility of the city following the grant.
Correct.
All right, thank you.
Can I have a follow-up to that?
Yes, please.
So, and again, I apologize I wasn't able to be at the meeting. If I had, what I would have said was, obviously, if you're applying for this, you feel there's a need. I'm assuming you're not applying,
Yes, and actually, it says once we receive the grant, I would...
if you receive it,
If we receive the grant.
which is,
But my plan is even before we get to that point, I want to get together with HR and finance. and-
thank you. That was going to
Yep.
be what I was going to request, is since you've already identified the need, I don't think we should wait for a yes or a no, thumbs up, thumbs down, on a grant, I think we need a presentation that would outline why you feel the need is there, what's the economic impact, and I think, Jim, you're getting to some of that. You know, what's the run volume been?
Sure.
You know, all those things that would be really beneficial to us so that we have time to make an educated decision versus, okay, now we have a grant, what do we do? So that was going to be my,
Yep,
it sounds like you're already there, so
and I
thank
concur
you.
to that, so.
Thanks for clarifying. Any other discussion items on the report in front of us? The Finance Property Committee meeting held August 5th. Alderperson Kirkpatrick?
And just to kind of with you there, Gene, that was, you know, when we said we wanted to come back, no matter, you know, for the grant, you know, that was the first thing in our mind. And those questions, you know, we did ask those questions, Marion and I, of what's going to happen here if we do get it, and Jim, what's the long term of these individuals? So it was those questions were definitely asked, which is why we wanted to make sure that it had another kick before the committees, before anything was done. So.
And I would add just a comment, given that this is the second time we've applied for it and second year we've applied for it, that at some point we may want to have a conversation about how many more times are we going to apply for it if we're not successful. We keep bringing it back year after year after year, and having to go through the motions every time might not be to our best advantage. So I would just mention that. Chief, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, just, we're trying to do it so it's the most efficient way for the city. There's definitely a need, which will show the need for that, but we wanted to at least go down this road at least twice, to at least give it a chance that way, so.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion on the report? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? That passes. The next item on our report is item B, the Public Works Committee meeting held August 6th. Alderperson Rayom?
Thank you, Your Honor. The Public Works Committee met at 5:30 PM on Tuesday, August 6th, in the first floor conference room in City Hall. All members were present. Also attending were Alderperson Chad Whirl, Dave Laspa, and Joe Eichstead. A list of others present is on file in the clerk's office. Item number 1 was to call the meeting to order. Number 2, review and recommend approval of the bids to convert the traffic signal installation at 3rd Street North and East Jackson Street to traffic-actuated installation. One bid was received. The low qualified bid in the amount of $53,734 was received from Vanert Electric Company Incorporated. There's a motion and a second to recommend approval of the low qualified bid from Vanert Electric in the amount of $53,734, and the motion carried. Item 3, review a request for the installation of a street light on 9th Avenue North between Rosecrans Street and Cleveland Street. Chad Whirl was present for this item. The present policy for streetlights in the residential area is one 150-watt streetlight per block or 300 feet. Qualify because it is 122 feet from existing streetlight at the corner of 9th Avenue North and Rosecrans Street. This area east of North Avenue North is zoned M1 commercial. The estimated cost to install this streetlight is $1,210. There was a motion and a second to approve the installation of a streetlight on 9th Avenue North between Rosecrans Street and Cleveland Street. The motion carried with Rayom voting in negative. Item 4, review application for vacation of Robinson Street right-of-way. Tim Reed and Jonah McCracken were present for this item. They are requesting a vacation of a portion of Robinson Street because they installed their fence on the Robinson Street right-of-way by mistake. They have been ordered by the Zoning Board of Appeals to move the fence. If this street is vacated, the fence will not have to be moved. A 15-foot wide strip of the northernmost 125 feet of the Robinson Street could be vacated so that the fence will be on their property and not have to be moved. There was a motion and a second to recommend approval of the vacation of a 15-foot wide strip of the northernmost 125 feet of Robinson Street. And that motion carried. Item 5 was to review the proposed 2013 Public Works project schedule. The committee reviewed the proposed schedule. Item 6, to review the referral list. The committee reviewed the referral list. And item number 7, there was a motion to adjourn, a second, and that motion carried. The meeting adjourned at 6:14 PM. And with that, Your Honor, I'd move for adoption of the report with, we'll get a second.
We have a motion, is there a second? We have a motion and a second on the report, any discussion? Alderperson Rayom?
I did that, and what I'd like to do, I guess, is hold out item 3.
We've got item 3 is being held out. Alderperson Kirkpatrick?
Thank you. I guess I don't really want to hold anything out at the moment. I just kind of was curious here about item 4. This is the street that I don't know if it hardly qualifies as a street in some ways, but this is the one that goes up into the northernmost section of Robbie to access the ballpark up there. Is that correct? Okay. Now, I mean, vacating a portion of that street, is that going to inhibit access to the parking lot that's up there in any negative ways?
I'll ask Dave Laspet to elaborate. Planning Commission also had the same decision, reached the same decision. Dave, you want to go ahead and elaborate? on that?
Yeah, the reason we kept it at 15 feet is so that city vehicles could get behind the ball diamond. It doesn't impact the driveway at all to the parking lot.
Okay, that was my biggest concern. I didn't want to, cut our foot off, I guess, but fair enough, thank you.
Okay. And so Sue's pointing out that it will come back for public hearing and all of that, so. Okay, any further discussion on the report with the exception of item number 3? Alderperson Worrell?
I'd probably have to abstain from voting on.
Item number 3 is being held out, so we'll handle that one next. So we'll deal with the report with the exception of item number 3. Any further? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes. So item number 3 on the Public Works Committee report. Alderperson Worrell, did you want to speak to anything? Do you just want to be, you're just making yourself abstaining from it, correct? There's one grammatical error. Your name starts as CHAD, not quite CAD, but we'll get that. The clerk's going to make that adjustment. I don't believe there's any need to. I mean, you had the opportunity at the Public Works Committee there's a request like any other request. All right, any discussion on that item? Alderperson Rayom? I guess we need a motion to approve. I mean, you held it out, so.
That's it.
Go ahead. Okay.
I'd just like to encourage those on the council to vote no on this, as it doesn't, as far as what the distance is to be. Maybe there's a way to provide lighting without that. And other things to be looked at. And I guess also maybe, it was brought up that there's different distances along our industrial parks and that between lights. I don't know if a thing to consider would be to address an ordinance that would specify what the distance is to be. This is, like I said earlier, is short of the number of feet that is needed in that area. And my feeling, I guess, along with that is that I did look at it as more of a security light, which the city does not provide. So I'm going to vote no. I would make a motion to deny.
Do you have anything further?
No.
We've got a motion to deny item number 3. Is there a second? Seeing as there's no second, I guess that motion fails. Sure, go ahead and, if you'd like to discuss, Jim.
A question about this. You note in the minutes that the request would not qualify because it is 122 feet from the existing street light at the corner of 9th Avenue North and Rosecrans Street. Is there a light within a 300-foot area? So from the light at 9th Avenue and Rosecrans, then there would be this light. Is there another light after this light? What is the arrangements of lighting over there?
There's an existing light at 9th and Cleveland, which is, it's over 300 feet. It's about 360 feet between the two lights. So it's basically one city block between the lights right now.
So 360 feet instead of 300. Okay. This lamp, if it was put in, would this be in the middle of the two or favor one end or the other?
Well, right now, the most cost-effective would be to put on an existing pole. It would be about 122 feet from the light that's on Rosecrans and 9th. So then it wouldn't be in the middle of the block. It would be.
It doesn't split the difference.
Right,
Speak of.
right. It'd have to be moved 64 feet to the north to be basically in the middle of the block.
Okay. What will this light up that we're asking for this?
Mr. Roll, do you
know-
want to speak to the request since it was held out? I'll give you the opportunity to do that from your,
Okay.
Yeah.
maybe it'd help clarify that.
Just because there's residents in that area, that is zoned light manufacturing industrial. I just purchased that building to run my business. That used to be the old Larry's Auto Body Shop.
Okay.
So, right now, 9th Avenue is pretty dark. I run my operations first shift and second shift, and that road is dark. So I'm just requesting a light on the existing pole to light up that block. I did go out and measure in the industrial park in Jefferson Street. They're all under 300 feet. They're 200, 195. As soon as you make a left-hand turn on 21st Avenue by Warehouse of Wisconsin, some of them are 156, 165. There's no set patterning in the industrial park. So I'm just asking to be just like them because they're running trucks in there and out of there 24/7. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Is there a second? We're a motion to approve the report in front of you, the item number 3 of the Public Works Committee report as presented, right? There was a motion to deny, and it failed. Motion to accept. Is there a second? We have a second. Any further discussion? Alderperson Kirkpatrick?
Thank you. With the considerations that Chad has presented on and how there's varying discrepancies with distances, I'd like to see something come back to, I don't know who would have to do it, planning or Public Works for some type of a ordinance review on this thing, if we need to set something or take a look at something here in the future. So maybe I'll bring that back at the end of the meeting here as well. So just kind of in everybody's thoughts.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. And abstentions? We've got one abstention, so we should probably do a roll call vote since we'll have a tie. So if you could do that, please, so. No. Okay. So the count of the vote was 4-2-1, so that passes. All right. Next item on the agenda is item C, the Human Resources Committee meeting held August 6th.
The Human Resources Committee met at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, August 6, 2013, in the third floor conference room at City Hall. All members were present except Alderman Nash. A list of those attending is present, is also available. Item 1, call to order. The meeting was called to order by Alderman Stack at 4:08 p.m. Item 2, discuss the Public Works manpower needs and consider a request to hire a full-time mechanic, the creation of a limited-term employee classification, and a request to hire LTEs, limited-term employees. It was moved by Whirl, seconded by Stack, to approve a request to hire a full-time mechanic, create an LTE classification, and hire 4 people into the LTE classification. Motion carried. Item 3, discuss state legislation regarding residency requirements, the city's current residency ordinance, and approval of changes to the residency ordinance. It was moved by Whirl, seconded by Stack, to direct staff to prepare an ordinance for council stipulating that all city law enforcement, fire, and emergency personnel be required to reside within 15 miles of the boundaries of the city, and to further define the attached classifications as emergency personnel. Motion carried. There is an attachment number 1. Item 4, consider a request to cease withholding FICA payroll taxes on employees Section 125 health and dental premium contributions. The city is not required to withhold FICA on these contributions. It was moved by Stack, seconded by Whirl, to approve the request to cease withholding FICA payroll taxes on employees Section 125 health and dental premiums. The savings for the total of all employees will be $24,000. The city also saves $24,000, resulting in a total overall savings of $48,000. An employee with 2-person health insurance coverage would save $234 in a year. Motion carried. Item number 5, consider a request to hire a geographic information system specialist. It was moved by Stack, seconded by Whirl, to approve the request to hire a GIS specialist at a salary grade 8, $46,572 to $52,694, with the understanding that Water and Light will fund half of the position. License agreement will cost $75,000 over 3 years, and the Jumpstart package is an additional approximate cost of $8,500 to get everything set up and working. $22,547 was budgeted in 2013 for the GIS position. See attachment 2 for a job description. Item number 6, the meeting adjourned at 5:05 p.m. Your Honor, I asked respectfully that items number 3 and number 5 be held out and the balance of the report passed as presented.
So there's been a request to hold out item number 3, item number 5.
Correct.
And did you make a motion to approve the report with the exception?
I would make the motion to
On the balance
approve with
report.
those exceptions.
We have a motion. Is there a second? To approve the report with the exception of items number 3 and items number 5 on the HR report. We have a second. Any discussion on the report with the exception of item number 3 and item number 5? Alderperson Rayom?
In regards to item, well, I'll start with item 4, work up the page. What actually would withhold, or not withholding, the FICA taxes, this money that, is the savings, what was that for, I guess? What did we?
Tim can speak to the history of the decision. It was a decision made many years ago, so Tim can speak to it.
Refresh the memory.
Many years ago, I think it was like 1985, when the city initially set up their premium-only plan to take out health and dental and life insurance premiums on a pre-tax basis, which you're exempt from federal, state, and also FICA taxes. But at that time, when the plan was adopted, the city decided that they were not going to exempt the FICA tax on those premiums. And basically, the recommendation is, since legally we're not required to withhold the FICA on that, that we would exempt those premium contributions from the FICA tax, saving the employees around $24,000 and the employer match of similar amount.
So, Tom, was your question, what's the impact on the employee?
Is that somehow paid by them as a, it's a tax, I guess, is it somehow then paid by them?
It was withheld.
Correct, yes. They pay the 7.65% tax on the premium amount, and then the city also pays the same tax on that amount. So by basically approving this action, we would no longer withhold that, so the city would not have to budget that amount, and the employees would actually see an increase in their take-home pay as a result.
Okay.
Okay. And you had a second item you were?
Yep. Up the page to item 2. How many employees were they short? How many mechanics were short compared to what there was?
We can defer to the HR director and Jim as well. Beth, did you want to speak?
At this point in time, they're not short any mechanics, but they will be making some organizational changes where they would be short one full-time mechanic.
What would the limited term employees be doing?
They would be working in areas which are more seasonal of nature, in nature.
Would I guess if a full-time person was hired, would that number change?
In terms of how many limited-term employees we would
Yeah.
hire?
Yeah.
I think the idea is that we would evaluate the need each time we lost a person, due to retirement, to determine whether or not that position could be filled with a limited-term employee, again, depending on what the job responsibilities are of the individual leaving, or whether or not the position had to be filled full-time.
These groups have been hit very hard, and I don't have the numbers of what they used to have working. This is, I guess, to me, is a way that we're getting into. And when I say manpower, in this case, it's manpower, the organization hiring people to provide to businesses or cities, whichever. I don't agree with this, and they, a lot has to do, I guess, with what I just said. The number of people that there were, and some will say, well, we're still doing it. They're getting work done, but are we getting it all done as we did in the past? Sooner or later, what I'm getting to is that we may have all LTEs and just work them different months of the year and not have our full-time employees. That's where I'm afraid this is going. And that's why I disagree with that. It's coming down the road, that there'll be more vacancies, and all we keep hearing is we have to assess the need. And people say, well, when somebody retires, leaves, that's the time to make a change if you're going to. Have all the changes by doing that, then good. I guess I would recommend, at the very least, that the council would send this back to committee, or deny it for the reasons, or what I've just said. And if nobody else speaks, Your Honor, I'll make a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to maybe respond to that, and maybe the department head would like to respond as well. And I think, the claim that, these groups have been hit hard over the years, and I think, granted, I haven't been here for decades or years, only a year and a half. I can say that priorities change, and you look at our workforce based on supply and demand. And so over the course of years, there's demands on our workforce. And so we've heard that in the summertime, we don't have enough employees, enough laborers to perform the job that we are budgeting for, right? So if that's the case, this will allow us the flexibility to scale our workforce up in a part of the season where the demand is greater and to scale down when it isn't so great. And I think to respond to your concern about whether or not, where does this start and stop? When do we quit hiring limited-term employees? Well, frankly, we're always going to need a certain amount of full-time employees to perform what it is that we're budgeting to do. And so I think I recognize this is a big step. And this is going to be a challenge. Obviously, it was at the committee once. It was held over. It was back to committee again for a lengthy discussion. Do we have all the answers? No. Will this be a silver bullet? No. Will it be a long-term solution and the only solution? Absolutely not. But at some point, we need to break the mold and try something different. I think this allows us to do that. Secondly, we all know that everything we adopt requires an implementation plan, and we also need to go back and revisit it. We need to close the loop on whether or not it works, is working, or if we need to change. And there's nothing to say that we can't hire any additional full-time employees in the future. This is no decision, as you can see in the motion. It's simply to hire the class, to create the classification, hire 4 people into that classification, and then, respond to the nature of the movement in the department, to hire a full-time mechanic. So while I'm very sensitive to the comments you make and thinking that this is going to be a long-term and the only fix going forward, I can assure you that it's not going to be, that the workflow and the demands of every department scales, ebbs and flows over the course of time, and that's all this is. So I would just want to respond to that and disagree with some of the sentiment that you have. Any other discussion? Alderperson Kirkpatrick?
Thank you. I was just hoping I could get a little bit more definition of what a limited-term employee classification means, would be.
The HR director can give you a list of, from the amount of hours to the pay classification that we've considered for it, and that type of things that's not included in the report.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. The hours that we would be looking at would be limited to 1,000 per year. And the compensation, we're looking at creating 2 different levels depending on the individual's experience and our needs. One level would be at a rate of $16 per hour and the other at $20 per hour. They would be eligible for workers' compensation as well as unemployment compensation.
And these positions, you bring it up in coordination with looking for a full-time mechanic, so I don't know exactly what types of tasks would be required of these individuals to be performing, and then would they be required to have some sort of a certification or a degree or something along those lines?
We would be looking at more experienced individuals who would have a CDL classification. In terms of the responsibilities, I guess I would ask Jim to speak with that, or to that.
That there is a significant gap between the summer help classification or summer laborers and the full-time laborer classification. So this is really providing that mid-range gap, but Jim can speak further to the qualifications question and the responsibilities.
Yeah, we'd be looking for people that could drive truck, operate equipment, perform the manual labor tasks, just about everything our full-time employees do.
Okay.
A little bit more than what we expect out of summer or seasonal relief.
Okay. And what, since you bring up summer and seasonal relief, what would their typical responsibilities include?
This summer, we had 2 of them on garbage trucks each day because we were short 2 full-time people on the garbage truck. They pulled a lot of weeds, sprayed a lot of weeds, string trimmed around poles and signs. They help out with our chip sealing program, a lot of shoveling of gravel. Right now, they're putting in topsoil along the 9th Street project, doing the hand labor there. Very limited operating of equipment.
And do we, do you feel that the job markets are hard no matter where you go, and we are seeing a trend in pretty much every job market towards a part-time classification of labor. Do we feel that we are going to find somebody, find individuals who are willing to take on a part-time, because that's essentially, I don't want to say it, it's not said as that, but it is more or less a part-time or a seasonal position with these higher levels of quality. I mean, a CDL is something that, as far as I understand, it's something that has to be renewed from time to time, and this is a large investment in one's career, I suppose you might say. I mean, do we feel that we're going to find somebody willing to take on this framework? And are they going to be of a quality nature that we feel is going to live up to, the integrity and ethical standards, I suppose, and just the general quality of labor that we expect out of, our employees, our full-time employees?
Well, we won't know until we start advertising, to be honest with you.
I suppose that's true too, yeah.
And that's why, we want to try it, see what kind of applicants, quality applicants, we're able to obtain. And obviously, we want individuals who are experienced in working with, the different kinds of equipment that we have. So we do have seasonal people in our engineering department. They work 6 months, they're off 6 months. We've had people that have been in those positions for a number of years. So, for some people, this is the right kind of schedule, just depending on what they have, another part-time job or what they have going on in their personal lives. So,
Okay. And I guess last question, I'll be quiet, but do we have any other municipalities nearby us or within the state or I guess wherever else that have experience with this type of a job classification, qualification, and what would that experience be?
I know that the state does have limited term employees, and Alderman Young can probably speak to that. Other municipalities in our areas are mainly seasonal employees, but I'm guessing that you're probably going to see more of this type of classification.
Okay, and sorry, one last thing that just jumped into mind. Now, when we have these individuals, would we be, like the police department has a list of qualified candidate applicants for when we need to fill, would we be doing the same thing with these individuals that seem to work out really well for us? Would we be putting them on a short list of callbacks? Hey, Jim just retired, let's call up Ralph because he worked out well for us last time. Would we be doing the same type of thing with these
Right.
individuals?
Ideally, we would like to establish an eligibility list, if you will, and then obviously, if they've worked out for us for a period of time, they would certainly be individuals that we would call back.
Okay, thank you.
And I think the other piece to add that gives some clarity around the roles, and right now we're going through the process in the street department of maybe reconfiguring some of the way we do some of the services within the street department. And so this will allow us to be able to pilot some of those pieces without having to make dramatic changes to workforce in the process. So it gives us that feeder program, as you asked, for the list, but it also allows Jim to be able to, and his men to be able to try these people. And maybe if the workload is determined, well, ultimately, we're going to hire a full-time person again. So I think that it gives that feeder program for those individuals to step in to try before you hire in some respects. Anything else, Jim, that you wanted to mention?
Well, just the fact that, we don't know this is a cure-all. I've often said we could use 50 guys in the summer and 30 in the winter if we don't have a crazy winter. So this is a one way to get to that 50-30 split. But like was said, and hopefully everybody agrees, if this doesn't work, we can always go back and hire full-time people. We lost 5 people in the last calendar year. We're asking for 1 full-time hire, and if the LTEs don't fit the bill, we can revisit it.
Yeah, and I guess that, to interject, I guess that we would do something like, provided that this would pass, I would hope that we would do some type of an evaluation of the program itself, much like we did with the police department when we looked at that, shift change operation that we approved there. So.
Okay, wait a minute. Who evaluated that? I've never seen an evaluation of that. Beth, did you even?
No, it did come back to the HR committee. I think there was a year sunset on that agreement, if I remember right, but it did come back to the HR committee.
Right, but was there an evaluation, and if so, what was actually looked at? What were the parameters?
Well, we can do a referral to communication
Well,
back on
that's
that.
fine. I just, what
think it's appropriate. I mean,
guess
if
what
you've
I'm
got a
struggling with
concern-
is when we say, I want to see it evaluated, and then a year goes by, and, well, we've forgotten about that issue, it doesn't happen. And so unless we say, this is what we want to see evaluated, these are the pieces, and we actually put it on a calendar, because I would argue that, in fact, the 12-hour shift wasn't evaluated. It came back, and do you like it? Anecdotally, do you think it's okay? Well, I don't know, I guess, so, but it wasn't evaluated.
Sure. No, that's fair. Alderperson Kirkpatrick, did you have anything else? No, I'm good. Any other discussion? Alderperson Hokamp?
Thank you. When these people are hired for a long-term employee like that, are they guaranteed that they'll be working so many weeks, or will they be on call? Or are they just, if I need you all of a sudden, can I just call you in? Or will they know if they're working, say, 4 weeks in a row, or?
I would imagine our intent would be to hire them through the busy season, and once that's over, they'd be let go. No intention to keep them through the winter. You know, at this point, at least with our full-time staff where it is now, I think our full-time levels are fine for winter. I know some of the neighboring communities hire part-time help to plow snow. I really don't intend to do that, but get us through the mid-April to mid-October busy season, and once we're through that, then we go back down to just our full-time staff.
Thank you.
And I think you raise an important point, though, for us in terms of the evaluation and implementation of this, that we need to evaluate whether or not those individuals, are we hiring them for 1,000 hours and then just keeping them for 1,000 hours because they have the ability to stay for 1,000 hours, or are they actually performing some sort of output? And that, I think that's definitely the conversation that's ongoing, that's evolving between finance, HR, myself, and Public Works. So, very good
And-
question.
And another thing, Jim, how are you rescheduling the mechanics that you need another one? I mean, what difference are you making?
We're going to do some combining of our lead mechanic position with our stockroom duties. And that'll take that lead mechanic out of the shop where he won't be actually repairing equipment. So,
Alderperson Rayom, for your second time
Yes,
speaking.
couple comments, but I don't believe I held this out, did I?
No.
I would like to do that so I can vote on it separately.
Okay, so we've
And
got
if-
item,
And if I could have say a couple more comments when we,
so we've got remaining in the report, item, you held out 2, 3, and 5. Am I correct? So we've got item 4 remaining in the report.
we're doing good.
With that, I'd entertain, we've already got a motion, a second. Any further discussion on item 4? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? That passes. So we'll take up item number 2. Work our way down the list. Alderperson Rayom, you want to speak again on that item?
I will, and quickly, just a couple comments. And maybe there's a question with it, but 1,000 hours, what would the hours be for that person to be considered full-time?
2,080 hours is full-time.
But
That's a that's
how
a
much
normal
would they
full-time
have to
position.
work in the year to be full-time?
Average, in terms of being eligible for health insurance benefits? Is that what you're asking?
What is it?
Full-time
what-
is
Who is considered?
40 hours a
what-
week.
Hmm?
Full-time is 40 hours a week.
It's 40 hours a week, but what's the number of hours somebody has to work full-time and they'd be entitled, say, to unemployment and that type of stuff? It is not 2,000, you don't have to work that 2,080.
Right, these individuals would be eligible for unemployment, working the 1,000. I mean,
Okay,
yeah,
but that'd be it. No other benefits, right?
correct, other than workers' comp.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. With the new
Okay.
WRS rules, I believe it's 1,200 hours to be eligible for WRS, Wisconsin Retirement,
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
Any further discussion on item number 2? We don't know if we don't try is my final comment. With that, I'd move into a vote. We need a motion to approve, I'm sorry.
I'll make the motion to approve as it is in the minutes.
We have a motion and a second to approve item number 2 as it appears in the minutes. Any discussion? Sorry, I jumped the gun. Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You're opposed? That passes. Next item on the agenda is item number 3 of that report that was held out. I'd entertain a motion. Council members?
Just discussion first, Mayor?
Sure.
Okay. I don't know, perhaps someone here does, why the state decided to get involved in something like this. As you note in the information provided, is that staff has, the ordinance for residency now a person will have to be residing within 15 miles of the boundaries of the city. All right? At first, sometime years ago, it was city, then it was moved to the school district. When you look at 15 miles of the boundaries of the city, there is no uniformity to that. The uniformity of the city boundaries varies from side to side, one end of the town or the other. So this just puts another monkey wrench in a person who'd like to hire on. Where do you live now? Will you be fine? Or will you not be? When we had the school district and the city, it gave us a set group, a set standard for all, because we knew it was the school boundaries. Is that correct, by the way? The current policy is school boundary. So that gave us a standard to work
It's
with.
School boundaries and within a 15-mile radius of City Hall right now.
Okay, school boundaries, and now it becomes the boundaries of the city, okay? So you live on the north side of the city, you go 15 miles, you're above Junction City. You go south, you're down at the lakes area. They could have left it alone. That's what I wanted to say. I just had to say it. Thank you.
I concur. Any further discussion on item number 3? Alderperson Rayom?
Just a question, what did the state pass?
The state-
What's the rules, I mean?
Right. The City of Wisconsin Rapids employees shall abide by any state statute requiring the residency within the jurisdictional limits of the city. And that's what the state did. They said you had to be within within a certain area of the jurisdictional area of the city. So in other words, it was not a certain set as it is now, but it becomes a point that, okay, and that's why they did it, I did not know. It was like they should have just kept their nose out of it. Let the community decide what residency shall be.
I agree, Jim, and that's a good point. I agree with that. And, you know, on one hand, you hear these people down in Madison or wherever, you know, about having local control. Yeah, don't turn your back because they'll take it away. And this is one of them.
This is
And,
one of those.
You know, it should, to me, it should be up to us how far, what we want to do.
Correct.
And, you know, there are a number of people probably in favor of stretching it out, but that's, to me, and you, is not the way to do it, that it should be up to us, the community, to make that decision.
And so that's the definition in front of you this evening, is to find out, I mean, in front of the committee was to decide whether or not how broad or how narrow do we want to interpret it. I mean, we have some leeway in terms of law enforcement, fire, and emergency personnel. So that was the interpretation from the HR committee. Alderperson Hokamp, did you have something to say?
Yes, thank you. Now, you talk about 15 miles. At one time, we had an employee that lived 15 miles as a crow flew. But as mileage, it was further than 15 miles. So how are you going to take and tell people to get to work but go this way, so you're 15 miles closer. Or you're just going to go because the crow flies, it's 15 miles. There's so many things that you can do with this that it's hard to judge if you're doing it right or wrong.
And I defer to the city attorney if there's any sort of definition. I mean, this is in front of us this evening, I guess, would be just the directing the staff to prepare an ordinance that reflects this. And so if that's a concern, maybe the city attorney can make sure it's addressed in the ordinance.
Right. The ordinance as written is as the crow flies, as is the state legislation, and that's generally how the majority of residency ordinances are interpreted, because otherwise, some people have response times. You have to be able to get to work within 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes. But as far as if you're setting a residency requirement in terms of a distance from a certain area, it's as the crow flies, and we just get on Google Maps and do a big circle, or now it's not necessarily a circle, it's from each of the boundary of the city and go out 15 miles. This is actually, expanding somewhat the current residency requirement that we have, because it's 15 miles from City Hall is what we currently have. What the state law did, it basically said, cities, you can't have residency requirements anymore for your employees, except for those employees that are law enforcement, police, and emergency personnel. So you don't, you could continue, you could decide that we don't need residency requirements for any of our employees. That would be one route to go. The other route to go is to define or take advantage of the ability to at least have some restrictions on some of your employees, and that's what the HR committee has recommended. And you see a list of the employees that are listed as emergency. There is some litigation involving this, and it gets to your point of the local control versus what the state can do. And so this could very well change. The Supreme Court could say that cities should have the right to decide this. This is a local affair issue. Also, there could be some legislation that further defines what emergency personnel is. We kind of have done that on our own in terms of including department heads, snowplowing, our utility, those types of things. But that could be further defined. So I hesitate to say that no matter what we do here today, there might be some changes that may need to be made. The last point I want to make is, since the committee did not approve an ordinance, but they recommend that an ordinance be brought back to you, or back to the council, then this, actually, the ordinance part of this will be taken up under, I think it's probably in the next agenda item specifically. So you're actually going to vote on the ordinance a little later on in the meeting.
Okay. Alderperson Kirkpatrick?
So I guess, well, to address that, an hour later, whatever, would we have to adopt the ordinance that would be presented? Or you said this was an option, this was kind of, I mean, are we being required to change what we currently have to something other else?
Yes, we are, because right now our ordinance that says that we have a residency limit for all of our employees, no matter if they're emergency or not, that is preempted now by state law. So we do have to change this in some fashion.
Okay.
So this is the route that
Okay,
was recommended and HR committee recommended.
okay. And now our jurisdiction lies 15 miles outside the city limit? Apparently?
For certain employees, it's 15 miles from the boundary of the city.
Okay.
It used to be for all employees,
Right.
15 miles from
From
City
City Hall,
Hall
yep,
and the school
exactly.
district. Right.
Okay. No, I'm with you guys. This is insane.
Okay. Any further discussion, since we actually have that item under 11A on the HR committee report? Seeing none, we've got a motion and a second, right? Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Oh, I'm sorry. I entertain a motion to, on item number 3. Motion to approve, is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? That passes. Next item is item number 5 that was held out. I'd entertain a motion, right, item number 5 was the next?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
Mayor, I was informed that you may be in discussions with water and light on the financing of the position?
That is correct. I asked the general manager to be here this evening, and unfortunately, I don't see him here. So,
We should probably then hold this item over for additional information as it may come forward.
yes, if the consideration was to approve the position based on the financing
Correct.
of it, I would respond saying that, obviously their budget's going to come before us, so if it's a priority of the council, it could be introduced in some way, shape, or form through the budget, possibly, through their budget. But at the same time, if you feel that you want to make them, entertain them.
I would make a motion that item 5 be held out for further discussion at a subsequent meeting.
Okay,
When we receive that additional information about the budgeting and
And the clarification on
cost
that?
of the position.
sure. That was our understanding, just for your information, when we first started talking.
Okay,
Now that position has been changed, so,
All
just so
right.
you're aware.
thank you.
Okay, we have a motion to hold that item out, or I'm sorry, hold it over.
Hold it over, correct.
Any, to a subsequent meeting, so I'm assuming the next HR meeting, we should have some answers, but, okay,
Send it back to committee. Yeah.
send it back to committee.
I haven't been on.
Motion is to send item number 5, the consideration of a request to hire a GIS specialist back to the HR committee. Is there a second? Second. We have a second, any discussion?
Just one item, Mayor. As we discussed this position at one point, one of the items that was brought up is that perhaps in the future, should this work out and we do get the mapping done, a person in the field with a tablet-type device might be able to look for something without necessarily having to call back, which would speed up his efficiency and the work on the job.
Right, yeah, and you saw the justification based on every department that submitted something, frankly, we have enough work for this person as an individual of the city, but the idea was to collaborate and with the water and light utility to be able to fund this position and look forward, but, sure. Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote on the motion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? That passes. And that was the last item on the HR committee, am I correct? All right. Moving to item number 11, ordinances. Item A, an ordinance changing the city's residency requirement as recommended by the Human Resources Committee at its August 6th meeting. See attachment number 2.
Move to approve?
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Is there discussion? Alderperson Kirkpatrick?
Thank you. With, and I'm not going to take a call from everybody, sitting by the table here tonight, but, 3 of us, and I believe Gene is kind of sitting here begrudgingly going along with some of these things. Scott, Mary, and Chad, I don't know exactly where you guys sit on it. We don't know where Bob's at wholeheartedly here, but, Attorney, you say that there is some potential litigation before the Supreme Court on this. What role can the city have coming off of the council if we saw fit to say, say to the state, say to the Supreme Court, say to the state legislature or to Scott Walker's office, hey, keep your filthy hands out of the thing and let us decide what we're going to do with our own employees. By all means, what kind of recourse do we have to, obviously we can't just simply deny the thing and not do something, but we have to do something. We have to kind of go along with it right now, but how do we stand up and, say, enough of this, let us have this back and enough of these types of things, let us just handle our own affairs here. What recourse do we have?
Well, the Milwaukee City Council is who's choosing to fight this, and I defer to the city attorney to discuss the litigation that they've presented in front of them.
Well, right, they're proceeding with litigation. We could join in or file our own suit. That wouldn't really make any sense. They're kind of taking the lead on that, and I'm sure, I'm pretty sure during the legislative process, cities were well represented in efforts to not have this passed by the League of Municipalities and Alliance of Cities and other groups. So in some respects, with the legislature, that ship has kind of sailed, but there might be something that comes of the litigation, or, I guess that's all I can really say at this point. I know at one point, Milwaukee was considering just not defying, basically, the state law, and I think they've found some other ways to kind of punish their employees who are moving out of the city, which, that's neither here nor there, but You know, I think we just need to wait and see, and there's really not a whole lot we can do at this point. I don't know if the mayor
There's
has
no
any.
petition that we can sign, there's no place that each one of us can put a name down on a dotted line to say, hey, you know,
Well, we all have our representatives' phone numbers,
Fair-
right? And I
fair
think
enough,
That's where
fair
the
enough.
battle is fought in the governor's office.
which
and
hat
can-
do I want to wear as I talk to him?
Right, and I think, Sue alluded to it, that the Alliance of Cities and League of Municipalities did fight this war, and a lot of cities fought the war, and obviously the city of Milwaukee is very vested in their residency requirements, so that would be where to take the next argument, but. Any further discussion on,
Yes,
Alder-
Your Honor. Just a question, and Sue wasn't available at the meeting that night, but a question to her at this point. If we decide to deny this and not pass an ordinance and say that we will wait until the item is finished through the court system, is that an option that we would have at this time, this evening?
I was at the meeting.
You must, okay,
Yeah, I was at the
I didn't see you
meeting.
there, and you
I
didn't
was
speak up
there.
then, I'm sorry. You didn't speak up.
I mean, I think I was, wasn't I? I was at the table.
Okay.
Well, the problem is if you don't do anything, our ordinance is preempted by state law, and then we basically would have no residency requirement at all of any of our employees. So it's kind of probably counterintuitive to not do anything and then have our present ordinance be thrown out and then not have a fallback in terms of any residency. So I guess it depends on what side of the fence you're on, if you want to maintain the control or you don't. But I think we need to do something.
Have to choose, okay.
right.
I just, and my apologies, you didn't, I guess I didn't hear you speak up, and no
she's
one
going to make
thought
her
to
presence known at the next meeting. Alderperson Rayom?
Yeah, and, with Milwaukee, the flight of people out of the city is a big issue, but not that we would see a mass exodus of people, but necessarily, but, down the road, the time could come of where does 15 miles, how far is that from different spots of the city? So down the road, I can see people in Wisconsin Rapids saying that we've had an exodus of people to other communities and come here to work. And that's the reason of the upset down with the Milwaukee City Council is besides other problems that are going on, but there in the city, but to retain those people closer or inside the city, their employees. So
Yeah, we won't ask those non-elected to raise their hand if they don't live in the city tonight. We'll spare them of that. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. Actually, was there a motion made? We got a motion in a second. I'm used to looking at the screen. All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? That passes. All right, next item on the agenda is item number 12, miscellaneous reports. The quarterly report of the Wisconsin Rapids Police Department for January, February, and March of 2013. The Treasurer's monthly report for June and July. Waterworks and Lighting Commission held July 9th, a special meeting, and July 10th, a regular meeting. Item D, McMillan Memorial Library Board of Trustees held June 19th. Item E, the Southwood County Airport Commission held July 18th and August 1st. Item F, the report of the Wisconsin Rapids Police Department for July. Item G, the Police and Fire Commission held July 10th. Item H, the Wisconsin Rapids Fire Department monthly organizational summary report for July. Item I, the Housing Authority held June 26th. Item J, the City Treasurer's report on investments for July. And item K, the Wastewater Treatment Commission held August 7th. Alderperson Stack.
To Mr. Neitzel, the RFPs are not, plant report, item 3A, phosphorus levels trended up during the month. Has that leveled out and is within the guidelines that are required of the DNR?
We did make our monthly requirement.
All right, and was there a reason found or determined for that?
No, we couldn't.
Okay, thank
Couldn't
you.
figure it out.
All right, thank you.
Alderperson Hokamp.
Thank you. On the minutes of the Waterworks and Lighting Commission, the number 2, discussing the insurance changes. Somehow or other, I can't figure out what they're changing. It just doesn't give us any information whatsoever. It tells us out what they will save, but it doesn't tell us what they changed. So can we get any information from them?
I see the commissioner must have had to leave this evening. The HR director might have some information on that. We'll go ahead and defer to Beth.
I did attend that commission meeting. My understanding was that they were going to go along with the same changes that we made here at the city in terms of offering the HSA and making the increased deductible for the Plan B. The difference between what they did and what the city did is they have fully funded it for the second year as well as the first year. So we basically are fully funding the high deductible in the HSA the first year for our employees with a 2-year commitment. What Water and Light did was to fully fund it for 2 years.
Did they give you any excuse me, idea how much it was costing the Water and Light to do this?
They did have a proposal for the commission, which unfortunately they did not attach to the minutes of the meeting. I did indicate to the general manager that maybe he would want to consider revising the minutes to be more specific in terms of what the motion was. But the savings, if I can interpret this correctly, he's got the cost down here, estimated total. What he had summarized was that they would save approximately $200,000 a year, I believe was the amount. If the deductible is fully funded for 2 years, the utility will still accrue almost $200,000 in savings in insurance costs over 2 years. And this is with a 4% estimated premium increase in 2015. I'm assuming that means with 100% participation with their employees. That's what they're looking at.
But the question was, what was the cost of fully funding it in the second year, if I interpreted Alderperson Hokamp's question? Is that on that list?
The total commission health cost is $916,283. That's with the 2015 second year funding, and it appears with the 2014 fully funded, the health insurance cost would be $817,870.
And the cost to fully fund it in the second year, I think, is the next question, or the part of the question Marion's maybe asking.
That was the total commission health cost was
You can defer to,
I'm sorry, for the fully funding portion of it.
Correct.
The premium cost would be $803,783.
The cost,
Hello?
and what's the cost of them funding it the second year, fully funding
Oh,
it the
I'm
second
sorry.
year?
The amount that they're going to put in would be the $1,250 per single for
they
the
have a-
second year and the $2,500 for family.
Do they have it broken out in terms of a total cost, though, considering
He's just got the premium
Full
cost
take rate.
here.
Okay.
He's just got commission annual premium cost, which is the $803,783.
Can we get minutes that will tell us all this in black and white, that we don't have to kind of guess what's going on? I mean, the minutes just tell us they're switching it, but I wish they would tell us what they're switching from and what they're switching to and how much it would cost.
Right.
You know,
Ideally, this proposal should have been attached to the minutes, and
Right.
I did have a conversation with the general manager regarding that, and obviously, we did not get a revised set of minutes, so
right.
I can certainly forward you this proposal that was handed out at the meeting.
Well, why don't you bring it back to the council next month?
Sure.
Explain to everybody then.
Or we could have the general manager do that.
Yeah, that's what, yeah, right.
Well, we could do that, but what difference does it make? I mean, we can't do anything about it.
No, but we can at least discuss it with him and show him that we don't really approve of it. And that maybe after this, he'll bring more, or the minutes will tell us more what's happening.
Any further discussion? Alderperson Young?
Thank you. I wanted to clarify, because I feel very strongly that when we say that we are going to evaluate something, that should be followed on, that we should do that. I have no issue with the 12-hour shift with the police department. I have no idea if it's working or not working, and I didn't want to leave the impression that I was somehow targeting. What I was targeting was that we said we would. And when we say that, we really need to define what does it mean when we say we want to evaluate something. And I think we've used that very glibly with a number of things, and we need to be very determinate about what it is we're evaluating. So I just wanted to clarify that in case anyone wondered.
So in the spirit of that, Marion, did you want to, you spoke to in the item regarding the report for the Waterworks and Lighting Commission to bring that back and encouragement of the general manager to be here at next month's council meeting.
Yes.
So we're not really in order of the agenda, but would you want to refer that back to committee or for the council itself? Okay.
Yeah, I think
We'll
we
make
should-
note of that.
Right.
Any further discussion on the reports here this evening? Alderperson Kellogg?
I just want to make a comment about the Macmillan Library. They have the grand opening on July 30th of the youth service area, and it is beautiful, and a large number of people attended. And I would recommend the viewers this evening, if you haven't had a chance to go over and see that, you're missing out on a real treat. And I have to compliment Ron McCabe, the librarian, head librarian, on the fantastic job he's doing there. And then, I don't know how, do we really understand how we're blessed in Wisconsin Rapids of the donors that help build and remodel that facility. So I encourage everyone to attend if they could. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Any further discussion? With that, I entertain a motion. Wait a minute, do we have a motion to, you do have a motion? No motion on that. We have a motion and a second to approve the reports. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, move into a vote. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed? That passes. Next item on the agenda is items under new business. There are none. Before we leave here tonight, we've got a new youth student observer joining us. Brian Davis is here. Martha was here and she was going to introduce you, but welcome. We hope that your next couple of months, 12 months on the council are informative. You'll learn a new perspective of what city business is all about, and who knows, maybe you'd want to run for mayor someday. I don't know. Maybe run for council, that type of thing. All right. Any further items? All right, Alderperson Kirkpatrick on item 14, referral of communications to committees.
Thank you, Mayor. Two things. One, I'd like to see go to Public Works, Tom, an ordinance review for street lighting, all city zonings. And then, this one just literally jumped into my head here. Do we require through some type of, I don't want to say, it's probably not an ordinance, but some kind of human resources code of conduct or something to have our department heads here at the meetings? Are you guys required to be here to the meetings? Yeah?
It's expected.
Okay, so why don't we do that with the general manager of Waterworks and Light? Okay, who do I need to refer this one to?
Well, I think we can start with a conversation between the two executives, between the two organizations. Be glad to have that conversation.
It's
Let you know the
ridiculous that we
result of the conversation.
consistently, every 3 months, we have these huge questions dealing with huge sums of money, and we can get no straight answer. We finally are getting reports, but anybody else feel my level of frustration tonight, or is it am I just barking up a tree by myself in the corner? Gene, help me out here. So I'd like to see that happen. Thank you.
Be glad to have a conversation. Any other items, referral to communication to committees? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All in favor? Opposed? We stand adjourned. Thank you for being here, and thank you for your attention this evening.